And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here to talk DC United. Oh, what's the point anymore? How you doing, John?
No, I'm good. I mean, we have an hour. Everybody, the billing starts as soon as you sit down. So make sure that when you come, you sit on the couch. You know what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
So we will have the number posted here quickly. But I think that that's something we should think about tonight. How does this team make you feel?
We are your personal soccer therapist right now. Apologies for my camera right now. I'm working through some kinks with it. So if I come out in blurry, hey, I actually look better, I think, blurry than I do in sharp focus. So I think my wife can attest to that too. How do we feel? We are your soccer therapists right now. We are your DCU therapists. Call in 202-905-0454. Call in. That game last night, I made the choice. I did watch the game. I put the game, afterwards. I forced myself through that crap show. In case you didn't know, DC United 4-1 loss to the Philadelphia Union. I actually saw a stat at the end of the game. I think it said something like the 7th straight victory for the Philadelphia Union, and they've outscored us like 22-5, if I'm not mistaken. That was a stat they threw up on the ESPN Plus. I guess it was the Philly broadcast is what it was. So, but yeah, that was bad. Is this rock bottom? I don't know. What do you think?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Only because the lineup was really weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If there were 2 defenders on the field that you would have assumed would start a game, and a goalie that I feel like Chris Seitz only plays in like friendlies where he loses 7-0. And this game, I remember seeing him against it was one of the French teams we played 2 years ago or last year, and it was Bad News Bears. But yeah, not the bottom. Very close to the bottom. Very bad. That's undeniable.
Let's get. I do want to touch on some good. The good. Moses Nyman made his first appearance. I think this is his first appearance. Griffin Yao saw the field.
He played a whole half.
Played a whole half and played a really nice ball over to Eric Sorga, who Sorga then flubbed somehow. So wide open goal, and the Estonian Messi or the Estonian assassin, whatever we're calling him these days, could not find the back of the net. So he's terrible, and we'll get into who DC actually has now brought in to replace him. We'll get into that whole story. If you're playing DC United bad season bingo, get ready for your. Get ready to mark a square. I posted that on Twitter, and I'm like, God, there's just so many seasons that freaking just like to combine when this team is bad, and there are just so many. You could throw signing Gonzalo Higuain to that board. So
he's going to Miami, right? Is that what happened today?
What's that?
Gonzalo Higuain's going to Miami. Is that what I read today?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess he's going to Miami. He's going to either LA, Miami, or some whatever.
But I think that there was news today that Beckham is ringing his phone.
Yeah.
So that's that. I mean, would that have made a difference at all?
I don't know. No. Probably not.
Would it have been funny to have 2 Higuains on the same team? Yeah, that would have been funny. Funny's good. Funny. I think we've talked about that before, right? Like if you're gonna suck, like be funny or be fun, something.
Be enjoyable.
Be interesting.
Be all those things, and this team is not any of those things right now. They are bad.
Yeah, it's not good. So let's talk about the fact that the lineup was weird. Chris Seitz in place of Bill Hamid for personal reasons, not related to anything that you know or anyone knows. It's just personal reasons. The back line was Axel Sjoberg, Donovan Pines, and Joseph Mora, 3 dudes who have never played together. And I bet not even in practice. I bet the day before, I bet Ben was still hoping that either Birnbaum or Brillant could make it happen. Neither of them in the 18, so they just both were home.
Yeah.
So they were. Yeah, I think that Ben would have told you before this game. God, I just hope this is a 0-0 draw. That would rule. Yeah. I don't think it will be because this backline has never played together, and Philly can score some goals. But let's not embarrass ourselves. And then they.
Embarrass themselves
very quickly within 25 minutes.
I mean, this game was over. I mean, it was over in 20, and then the rest of the game was just like all Philly had to do was just not give away the game, and they dominated possession. I mean, I think the stats, it was like 51-49. I was like, really? Just the goals this team gave up were just off of breakaways. They were. I actually was finding funny. I was watching DC build up attacks and actually get a decent chance on goal, and then Philly would just come right back, and they were just not prepared. They got overrun. They got absolutely overrun. It looked like this team literally just, they were a step slow. There wasn't even any real effort I could really point to. I thought this was a really, I mean, just awful game. If this were any other team, this were a normal team under normal circumstances, any coach that has been here this long, that coach either would have been in the hot seat or dismissed the next day. Let's be clear. I don't see any reason that was, in my opinion, it was an embarrassing performance from this team. They didn't even look like they cared. There was a lot of malaise. The pass from Gressel on I think the second goal or third goal, I can't remember, was just absolutely atrocious. A bad giveaway. They come back and they're absolutely 100% exposed. And I don't think Chris Sykes did anything bad. I mean, I don't think he did anything to really keep the team in the game. But I mean, it was just a really, really bad performance. I thought Assad looked okay. I thought he had some moments. Like I said, the new guys, Paredes, I didn't think he did that much, but I thought he looked okay. Yeah, and John needs to stop, playing our show and make sure he's on mute.
Hey, did you know that if you watch us on Facebook, it does live live closed captioning?
It's probably pretty funny. It's probably like
it
not
is.
accurate at all.
Listen, folks, if you want to see, I'm a fan of like weird closed captioning. So if you're into that, check us out on Facebook right now. I'm the only one doing it. No one else is, but there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I won't do that again. Sorry, Ted. It was bad. Donovan Pines, I think Donovan Pines will be on RFK Refugees mini show, Instagram live edition on Wednesday at 8:00. So stay tuned for that. If that's true, even if it's not true, if you had a question for Donovan Pines, like for instance, I would like to know how he feels getting a run of games here after not playing for what it seems like a million years, and how his body is adjusting to sort of the real 90-minute demands over and over again. I think that's probably a lot for a young player. But him and Kevin Paredes are looking like Ben is giving us what we wanted from that perspective. He's like, all right, okay, I'll play the kids.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. Why not?
I'll talk about another thing. So I remember on last week's show, I was like, all right, here's what I want to see. I want to see, I'm going to take results maybe a little bit out of the equation. I want this team to win. Otherwise, why do you play the games? I had said I want to see a goal from an offensive player in the run of play, not a penalty, which we got against New England, which I guess we can sort of talk a little bit about New England, maybe, because I don't think these games are kind of weird with our schedule. We did do a little bit of a halftime show with that. They made it interesting towards the end, but certainly not anything fantastic, and they still looked really bad. I don't think they looked anything special, especially with, and also we got to talk about, Edison Flores is out for 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured skull face.
Orbital bones around his face.
Orbital bones around his face. Bones. Yeah. But we talk about, and I got that. I got Julian Gressel scoring in the run of play. I think Andre Blake could have done a little bit better with that.
He should have saved it.
But, this is 2020. I mean, I asked for something and I get what I asked for. It just turned out to be a garbage goal that really didn't impact anything. So
you got the great value version of what you asked for. You got the Massimo version of the goal.
I got the Kirkland signature of what I asked for.
Yep.
I don't really know what else to say about this team. The season's, I don't think this team is making the playoffs. I don't think this team is doing anything. Even with 10 teams, I mean, maybe they're still going to be mathematically alive, probably until the last minute. I mean, we are behind right now. If you want to talk, we talk about how much we made fun of FC Cincinnati. We're behind them.
Yeah,
we made fun of Chicago. We're behind them. Nashville SC, one of the teams that one of the expansion teams that everybody was saying, like everybody was painting up Inter Miami. Guess who's actually having a better season right now? It's Nashville. They won 2 games. We've only won 1. You look at all these teams. Atlanta United's been really bad. They got their coach fired. They are 1 spot outside of the playoffs right now. I mean, what? How else can you break this down other than just that we are going to be historically bad?
Well,
we are the worst team. I'm going to go ahead and say we're the worst team in Major League Soccer. I think Inter Miami is better than us, and they showed they were better than us when they nearly beat us, and we somehow managed to win that game. Who knows what? Who knows how?
Historically bad though is a hard barrier for us to clear because we've been so historically bad before. we will be in the vein of historically bad. We'll be like in that tranche of awful teams. But
the fact that this is going to be a shortened season and not a full season might actually save us from being historically bad, I think.
Or unless it's a point per games thing, and then maybe it'll be even worse.
Yeah, maybe.
We got a comment here from Jonathan M on YouTube, frequent commenter. Appreciate that, Jonathan. You should call in sometime. The lineup smelled of an inventory check, and maybe a house cleaning is to come. The young kids looked worthy of giving another shot.
Yeah,
I think the kids are going to play a lot. I think that what you saw, Kevin Paredes is just going to start every game. I think until he breaks down. I think Ben's like, I don't have any other better options, so we're gonna roll with this. Griffin Yao hopefully gets a little bit more. They're obviously not going to Loudoun now. It has become clear that none of those players, poor Loudoun United, none of those guys are going down there at all this season. So that's just what it is. And Donovan Pines is getting the big run too. So it's great from that perspective. Do I think that a house cleaning is to come? I don't think so. We only have 17 healthy bodies right now. So just from a amount of people, unless they're going to start like really using Loudoun United as like a just a shop for some bodies basically. But Loudoun's not having a great season either. Maybe there's Elvis Amo perhaps in the midfield, but these are stretches. Like if we're to do that, these are not solutions. This is not an actual. It would just be really to make up some bodies for this. But I bet you the same thing that's keeping those players from going down is going to keep players from coming up. They probably want to keep a big firewall between these two teams so that they don't have COVID outbreaks.
Yeah, and I think we maybe touched a little bit on the COVID thing. I think, what was it, 4 or 5 players, some 6 staff catching COVID. I mean, you were going to have
league-wide.
What's that?
League-wide?
That's league-wide, yes, I believe. So it's
pretty good considering now they're no longer in a bubble and everyone is they're traveling commercial in some cases, I think.
I think they're doing, I believe they're doing all all
charter flights.
All charter flights. I think that is part of the.
I'm thinking of NWSL, who is also restarting soon, who will be taking commercial.
Yeah, so I think it's all charter flights.
That's good.
Yeah. It's good, and I mean, I don't think it's good because I think anytime you have any positive case is not good because we don't know what those players are going through, whether someone's going to get hit. It is the best case, maybe one of the better case scenarios out of this, because I mean this could have gone really badly really quickly, and it hasn't. And the team has done, I think, the league has done at least a good job under the situations of keeping things under control. We can argue whether they should or not, and I think that's a legitimate argument to have. But it is what it is, and we're here and we're watching soccer, and nothing's going away right now because nothing is different.
We've got Adam Lundegaard of Loudoun United watching us on the Twitter stream right now. Hey, Adam, we need some more center backs, and we only had 17 players. So if you want to talk to Ryan about that, I think it's probably a good idea. So you're available. Tell them that if need be, you can quarantine for however many days you need, and then just hop over there.
Oh wow, I'm looking at this. I just saw this. See, I was away, unfortunately, and not really paying attention. Was it Emily Olsen says on another DC note today, Costa Rica international and forward Maryland soccer winger Rodney Wallace is training with United. 39 appearances. He was on a young 1-year contract with SKC and expired. That's a good here's this player that you guys remember type of signing. I don't
Apparently he is recovering from a major hip issue.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it might just be like a staying in shape type thing.
Yeah.
If it's not, we don't know. And I don't.
They need bodies. I mean, I think they'll take them. I mean,
they'll take
them, and there's no sign of any investment coming to this club, so they're going to take them. And
let's talk about the proof of that. Let's talk about some the evidence that we know no money's coming in.
Yeah.
So DC United there has been a clamor for more forwards. We're saying, why are we playing Luis Segura forward all the time? He's not a forward. Why do we keep doing this? The answer was because A, Eric Sorga appears to be bad, and B, there was no one else. So we have someone else now, Gelman Rivas. He of the Venezuelan national team, kind of, in a way. He has 3 caps quite a few years ago, I believe 2014. was the last time.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
He has lit up. He has lit up the Saudi league. Let me just say, like, you gotta look at the Saudi stat. I looked at his stats and I see like all these clubs that are clearly have Arabic names, and they are all like teams that play in Saudi Arabia. So he's lit up that league, and I think he has 7 appearances for a Turkish side. I think he played in the
and 1 goal.
Yeah, 1 goal in the United Arab Emirates. Could he be good? Sure. Let's if we're playing complete hypotheticals here, yes, he could be good. Okay.
Sure.
Sure.
He could
why
be,
not?
because
This
anything is
MLS.
possible. We live in a world of infinite possibilities. That's how it could be possible.
But this is, I mean, what else can you say? I mean, this is a sign that this team is circling the drain and they are desperate for bodies. This dude, they got on a free. They didn't have to pay anything to get him. I mean, it's like it's 2016, 2017. I mean, not 2017, but like it's like 13, 2014 all over again. This team
Danny
is
Alsop. It's International Adam Christman. That's what's going on here.
Oh, Danny Alsop, man, 2010. That's taking me back.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think you made a good joke here on Twitter. The quote from Dave Casper: "We're excited to welcome Gelman to the." I think it's Gelman. It could be Gelman. It's probably Gelman. It's probably not Gelman. I'm going to call him Gelman now. Welcome Gelman to the district. Gelman's experience and goal scoring record in leagues across the world will add some important firepower and attacking depth to our roster. We're looking forward to integrating him with the squad. You could remove Gelman's name and put Hamdi Salihi in there. Put any number of former international players that are like,
oh,
well-traveled.
Put Leonard Pahoy in there.
Yeah,
for kicks.
well-traveled, goal-scoring record across the world. Yeah, definitely. So it's not great. It's not great. I'm a producer here telling me it's probably Hellman. I know that it is, but I'm going to call him Gelman now because it's funny to me.
We should try to pronounce names correctly, John, even if we mess them up.
Except for Gelman, because it's making me laugh now. So sorry, bud. If you score a goal, if you score 1 goal, I will call you your actual correct name.
If you lead this team in scoring and score more than 10 goals, I will buy his jersey and I will put it on the back and I will wear it proudly.
If he scores 10 goals and you have to get some sort of tattoo. I think that the stakes are high at that kind of 10 goals. We'll think. We'll talk. We'll brainstorm off show.
Yeah.
Gelman, come on. Oh, we've got so yeah. I mean, that's where we're at. That's the signing that we've been given. They're according to the Oracle of Loudon, Ryan Kiefer. There's a possibility that another defender from Blackburn is heating up the conversation there around that player to DC is going, which is okay, cool.
More defenders. Let's just prevent people from scoring. Who cares about scoring goals or actually signing?
Yeah, no, I think well, we need both. We need one more than the other for sure. During the game last night, I was thinking if the new Moneyball tactic is to sub your second goalie on there with no gloves, who just stands in and around the goal and just sort of like does angles, but puts his arms behind his back. Because I think we needed it. I think that would have been more useful for us than maybe some attacking players that we had going on. So, it's a,
and it just shows. I mean, this is the type of signing though that just it's so disheartening. After that game, it's almost like the worst. And I'm not saying don't do it. Wait until after, because I mean Rebels might be worse. Who knows? But I'm just saying it's just so disheartening to be like you lose 4-1. This team is bad. Things aren't going well. You got guys injured up the wazoo. I'm not ready to give up on Edison Flores just yet. I don't think you can give him a fair share. Everybody's calling him a bust already. And I'm like, I'm not there yet. He's going to be here through 2021 unless he is so unhappy that he just wants to leave, which could happen. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. But I don't think you can really put much stock into the idea that he's a bust yet. He might still be, but I mean, I think at this point you got to give him a full, hopefully COVID-free.
Yeah, for sure, a full season. I don't think he was signed here on a 1-year deal. So,
yeah.
And I don't believe on these performances we're going to sell him off anyway. So, he's gonna get some time to figure out where he's at. I think everyone, included him, the manager, would say this has not been enough this year, but lots of extenuating circumstances there. So he's got, like you said, a COVID-free full season, full preseason. Let's see what he can give. But
with Paul Arriola, maybe that'll be the difference.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we talk about it now. I feel like we talk about Paul. We talk about a player with an ACL injury who's not going to be here more than any other any other team that has a long-term injury. We just talk about it all the time because he's so missed.
Yeah,
It's so necessary. The difference in the team is just dramatic.
but so I mean, this whole signing is just it's so depressing as just like from a standpoint of this is what we have, this is what we're getting. You know, we want our team to go out and say this is not good enough. We need to, you know, splash the cash. Let's go find somebody. Let's, you know, let's scout. Let's, you know, I don't think, who knows if anyone's really scouting right now. I probably can't do much scouting, but like
Digital scouting.
Let's
They have an ESPN Plus subscription, so they get to see almost all of the leagues that exist anyway.
But you know, other teams are going out and doing that. They're finding players. They're bringing guys in. They're, you know, saying, "Hey, we're not good enough here. Let's go bring somebody in." And this is what we're getting. We're getting a guy that basically it's cheap and let's just throw in. And if he does well, by God, we've, you know, struck gold. If he hasn't, then, you know, and I'm sure they've looked at him. I'm sure they watch games. They're not bringing, you know, some.
They've scouted him. It was they weren't just like looking at the free agent list like, all right, this guy's got a funny name. Let's go with this guy.
But it would just be better. It would just be nice if this team actually went out and did something at least a little bit more, because this just reeks of just like underwhelmingness, an underwhelming player we're bringing in. And we talked in the chat. I think our producer brought up the idea of are we, you know, Olsen out? You are firmly, well, if it's Chad Ashton, then forget it. I am of the opinion that I want some accountability. Like I really want some account. If it's been, and I look at like this team, I look at that game, and it was like the team was just never in it. And I'm like, is that organization? Is that injuries? I mean, we come up with all these excuses, but I just want to see some accountability. I want to see an ownership that at least cares a little bit, and not just like, oh, this is fine, you know, oh, we'll get him next time type situation. No, I'm sorry. We've been here way too many times. I want some accountability. I even if it's Chad Ashton for the rest of the year, who cares? We already know this season's going to go down. It's going down the tubes. Probably going to completely collapse. Like, I mean, let's be serious. Unless there's a major change, unless they go out and they sign Messi or something like that. Like this season is pretty much like in the trash in my opinion. Unless there's a dramatic shift in a lot of different players. And hey, prove it. Go out and do it. But like, I want to see some accountability in this team. I want to see the ownership show me that they care. And that part of showing that you care is recognizing that something's not good enough and you need to make a change. And even if it's, you know, if it's a tough situation, not entirely Olsen's fault that, you know, he gets this new team and he has like a stunted practice schedule and everything, you know, no, we expect a little bit better. And that performance against Philly was not good enough. So I'm sorry, but we need to make a change. We need to figure something out. And that shows that you care as an ownership. That shows that you are invested in the success of your team. And we're not seeing that. And I think that's the most frustrating part is we don't know how much. We hear a lot from Ben. We hear a lot from we hear some from Dave Casper when he gives comments. But we're not hearing from ownership. We're not hearing from anybody. You know, give like when something's not good, you sometimes have owners will be out there being like, hey, it's not good enough. You know, we're working to be better. We're not hearing any of that. We have absentee owners right now. And that is just so frustrating on so many levels.
I would say most teams in MLS have absentee owners. I would say the Merritt Paulsons are the exception. Most owners, you don't hear from them. Yeah. The Rapids are certainly not hearing from their owner. That doesn't excuse. We're in a position of not knowing what this team's we talked about it, I think, at last show or the show before, about what this team's long-term strategy is. Yeah. Things that I would love to happen are a realistic conversation about what this team's revenues are, what this team wants to do within those revenue constrictions. Is it saying we need to tread water until X so that we can do Y? Okay, that'd be fine. I want to know that. We'll never know those things. The transparency is not an element that most MLS teams have. There's a few teams that do, but most don't. But I feel like in the absence of a team that is competitive to win trophies, which this team is not, in real terms, then you have to do a better job telling me why I should care,
yeah,
and why I should continue to do it. The problem is that I'm still going to,
yeah.
So the motivation for you to open the kimono and say, here's the deal, we don't have any money. Our ownership is not going to, me, the owner, I'm not going to spend any more money until I have the auxiliary developments up in and around the stadium, and I'm drawing revenue from that. And all of a sudden I'm flush. Until that happens, you're going to be right where you are. The problem is that that's the truth. The diehards that are not me, the diehards without podcasts and a reason to continue to do it, are going to say, all right, well, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go follow something else.
I mean, if you look at it from my perspective, right now I have a local team that is actually playing League One, Division III soccer, but is still playing decently well. So from my perspective, they're playing at least somewhat well. As my video freezes, I hope people can still hear me.
I can hear you, but I don't know if that's indicative of anything.
Yeah, I don't know if that's indicative. I don't know what's going on. But so we have an issue where this team is, where, you know, from my perspective is I have a team right now in Richmond that's playing decently. So if I have a choice between going up to DC, driving, spending my time doing it, I'm gonna choose to watch my local team or watch at home. That's my choice, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm not, you know, contributing to fan revenue, and it's really hard to feel engaged. So, and I'm sure there are other people that, you know, won't do either. They'll just stay at home. They won't watch any soccer. So,
yeah, somebody in the comments on the Twitter stream said they turned off the DC United game to watch the Loudoun game because it was more exciting. Which, that's true. I think if you watch both games, I think that's undeniably true. But the struggle here is just that, like, I'm just reiterating, like, I don't, there's no sign that the goals of the franchise, the goals of the organization are the same as the goals of the fan base. Mark Rickling says most owners would not have kept Ben Olsen on for 10 years. Yeah, I agree with that. But these ones did, and these are still our owners. So there's a reason why that's the case, that these particular folks kept him on. I think for a lot of times we've talked about it ad nauseum, and I'm sure there are listeners that are
tired of hearing about
excuse
it
at this point.
Yeah.
That are tired of hearing about it. But it's the deal. Like, so he was the I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I can't think of one. He was the guy you put in charge of the game that couldn't shoot straight for a while. So nothing was going to matter. How it was going to go wasn't going to matter, but he was going to be cheap and people were going to know his face, and they were unlikely to turn on him because he was a club legend. Now we're a little bit past that. The old timers, like people with Ted's amount of years in service are leaving. They don't care anymore. They've gone. So the people who know Ben, you know, fully from his entire career at DC United are gone. They've rolled off this team. So the equity that existed before is shrinking. So there's I think from a fan equity perspective, there's not as much of a reason to keep him on board for a lot of those reasons. We said at the beginning of the season that if nothing else, just to have a new dynamic in place and to see what occurs, see what happens. So the same, if you can't afford to change the players, change the coach and change the philosophy and see what happens. If we still suck, which I honestly think still might be the case, okay, you tried something. You didn't just lay there and let it happen. But I just don't know. It's such a weird position. Like, I don't think that we'll be in any better straits if we fired Ben tomorrow or whatever after the next game. Who would come there? There's nobody coming in now, and the players are all dramatically underperforming, I think, except for Kevin Paredes, basically. Like, I think in this setting, I don't know what changes this year. And I don't necessarily think, I get it that you want the ownership to do something to show that you're paying attention and have been watching the games for the last few years. But I don't think I'll feel better until I know what they're going to do next year. Like, if they fire him and they're like, okay, I'm not signing any other players, though. He was obviously the problem. That's why we suck. Now he's gone, so now we'll be good.
I will say there's an old adage about, you know, when you have a coach and you hear him over and over again. I mean, you're looking at. I mean, Ben has a lot of players he's had now for a long time. Brilliant's been here now for at least a couple years. You have Obviously, Bill's been around forever, and I'm sure Bill won't say anything. You have Paul Arriola now, and I just get this feeling. I think there's a certain comfort level among some of these guys that is why everybody's underperforming. And I think it's a lot to do with no one. I think even the players on the field don't really know what Ben Olsen wants to do with them, wants to do with this team. And maybe we were not in practices, we're not in training, but it just feels like I watch this team now and I'm like, I don't know what. Do they not work on certain things in practice? Our set plays are atrocious, awful, terrible. I think basically Philly figured, let's just foul them at the top of the box. They'll get a set piece and they won't be able to do anything with it. Like, that's basically like the strategy for defending the team. And if you watch their games, they're getting very few opportunities where they're actually penetrating the box because teams are just say, yep, we'll take the foul here, and they're at the top of the box and try to beat us with, set plays. And their set plays are bad, and it ends in nothing. So, and I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it just feels like a lack of organization, a lack of direction. And I think bringing someone else new in could shake that up. Could suddenly players are worried that, oh gosh, a guy like Edison Flores, who though he's a 5-year contract, it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to be here? I'm not under the same situation. Different coach, different ideas. Julian Gressel, who has looked really complacent, I feel. Emil Assad, a lot of those guys suddenly maybe it shakes them up and says, hey, let's, who knows what we're gonna, if we're gonna be here. Let's, I need to start, focusing up. I need to start and just bringing some guy in with at least a general idea of how they're gonna play. I feel like Ben just tries crap and just like comes up with an organization strategy that he thinks might work, and it works for a little bit, and then it goes away, and then he scraps it and finds something else. It won't surprise me if we have another formation change after this game. I could see it happening. That was just such a poor performance and got exposed very, very easily by Philly.
Well, yeah, I mean they didn't have enough defenders to do any other formations in that particular game, so they were in a bit of a bind. They had no more center backs, and both of their right backs were out.
Had a wing back playing center back, basically.
Yeah, that's how bad it was.
Yeah,
that's how. So yeah, I mean, Jonathan M says, "What player looks at DC United and says I want to go there right now?" And the answer is someone who really needs a job and doesn't mind making league minimum salary.
And that's that to me. If you bring in and a coach can change a lot of that. A coach can, bring somebody in at coach. I think that really should have been this team's priority. Let's get somebody in as coach because that can convince a lot of people to stay, or to come in. We got absurdly lucky with Wayne Rooney decided to come here. I mean, people ask them the same thing, who would want to come play here? Well, Wayne Rooney apparently wanted to come play here. So, it's not an easy, everyone's like, who would want to come play here? I'm like, I mean, you can, if you either splash enough cash to actually be able to make the signings, you can convince talented players to come play for you. DC's not doing that. They're not, I mean, they splashed the cash on one player, and that was Edison Flores. And other teams do that on like 4 or 5 guys. Maybe if you have a great season, if all 5 of them work out, like legendary season, if 4 of them work out, you're still doing pretty well. If 3 of them work out, you're still doing pretty well. I mean, even LAFC, it doesn't hit every single signing. There were plenty of guys they signed and didn't work out, but they sign enough and they're willing to put forward that money enough to go out and find guys and bring guys in. And we're not doing that. We paid money for one player this offseason. And yes, we re-signed Paul, which is great. I'm not saying that's not great.
That is very good.
That is very good. But, I mean, if you look at what other teams are doing, Atlanta went out and got, I think, Jurgen Damm, a Mexican international. Like, they went out and got a guy to try to, like, help this team out. And they went out and they were aggressive in getting players.
And they have infinite resources, so they should.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying, like, we have to do that. I'm just trying to paint the picture of, like, the league is passing us. Or we need to say, you know what? We are going full on. We need to do what Philly did. Philly is probably even the same or maybe a little better, but probably a little bit worse budget than we do. They trash us. They are playing some amazing soccer right now because they committed to an idea of what they were going to do. And they absolutely are reaping the benefits. They brought in, Ernie Stewart. They brought in Jim Curtin, and they said, here's our identity. Here's what we're going to do. They have a whole youth development like identity. They do it a little bit differently than a lot of other teams. And, they have reaped the rewards of that. They have some great players, and they're playing really good soccer. for what their budget is. So it's possible not to be a big spender and still be a competent team. And that's what we want right now. I just want a competent team. I'm not asking this team to be Atlanta or LA if the resources aren't there. I understand that.
We're saying to be Philly now. That's how bad things have gotten. We're like, wouldn't it be cool if we were like the Union?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if that was DC trashing the Union like we did? Of course it would be.
Yeah.
And we're just stuck in neutral. That's all it is. So.
I was going to make a joke about DeBoer, but ProStoop also did it on the chat. I was thinking about when you were saying we should just replace a coach that people want to play for. Well, he is available. 290 DC 99, which says, why didn't we bring back Amarikwa and Jalen Robinson? They seem fine getting minutes. We need bodies in the team. I think the fact that neither of those players are on a team right now tells you something about why they let them go. So that is always I give credit to Dave Casper and Ben Olsen in one major regard from a player evaluation standpoint is once they get let go from here, they don't go up. They don't, generally not. We were talking about before the show, Eric Williamson is an exception and also an asterisk because he didn't actually play on the team. Yeah. But if you train with this team and you can't get on the field and you get let go, that's a bad sign for you. And other teams are like, no, I don't think so. I'm trying to think of a player like Ike Opara out of the league, I think, or at least not playing. I'm trying to think of other players that sort of have moved off our roster. Dax McCarty doesn't really count. He was here for like a minute. Can you think of anybody that's done well after they left here after they were sort of cut?
Not anyone we actively traded away somebody that's resources you're getting back. There are plenty of homegrown players that haven't shooken out. The problem is Eric Williamson didn't want to come here, and I think that was the biggest problem. I think
he wanted also guarantees of playtime and salary that we didn't think was, or they didn't think was commensurate. So
yeah, and they that stinks on their player. That is
Nick DeLeon. Thank you, Pro Soup. Nick DeLeon is the one major example of bad evaluation. Although that was again a contract thing, right? They thought that they were smarter by half, that they could sign someone else to fill his role for half money, and then Nick just went up and I think won MLS Cup. Was that the first year they were there? Or was that the year after?
No, it was the year after. See, he hasn't won an MLS Cup with them. They made MLS Cup final.
He still played wonderful.
Oh yeah. It's it's tough. I agree that I think they get it more right than not, but sometimes when they're wrong, and they're starting to be a little bit more wrong now. I'd say Nick DeLeon, Eric Williamson. I think you are starting to see them maybe tend towards the side where it's like, okay, now they're not as smart as they that was the one thing I held up sort of in that 2010. I was like, hey, they're really good at playing money ball, finding guys in the rough. I mean, even those years they were bad. Everybody's saying like, 10 years. I'm like, yeah, but they still made the playoffs. I don't discredit myself for saying like they should have kept Ben Olsen around. I just think the league has advanced so far in our ownership, it isn't evolving with it, or isn't coming up with something new, or Dave Casper and Ben Olsen aren't evolving with it, and they are staying with the same way they've coached since 2010. And that's not working anymore. That.
I think Ben's changed the way he's coached.
He's changed a little bit, but I still see some of the same tendencies that he has as sort of a coach, and that hasn't really changed. And I think it's sort of led to this team kind of being comfortable and kind of stuck in neutral. So
Gordon Wild was a player we should have kept.
Yeah, that is one. So again, these are all recent sort of signings, and it's sort of speaking to what this team is right now, and sort of how the league is sort of starting to pass them by with sort of analytics and a lot of other things that they're investing a lot of time and money into that I don't think this team is. So
we would love to be wrong, and we would have to talk to someone who knows the answer to those things. So if MLS was a little bit more open, if they were, that is a thing that MLS really needs to look at. I don't think I think no longer are they trying to be the league of choice internationally and trying to put them up to that sort of that podium. But it's free to tell your closest fans, which are us and our listeners, like what we want to know. Like we want to know salary cap space. We want to know what you're spending on scouting and development. How many people do you have in that department? What is your, what's your plan for next year? I don't know Chelsea's transfer budget, but I know certainly enough about there's enough of a rumor mill around them to see like what's going on. I could sort of say how aspirational are they, how aggressive are they, or not. So it's wild that to still be here and to look at this roster and sort of look. I'm going through it now. Zoltan Stieber left, and now he's playing in a long name with lots of Z's. I think there's 3 Z's in this name. And Atlas, that being the one rare player who left us and is now playing in a better league, other than Wayne, is Luciano Costa. Although he's not been great.
Yeah,
he's been fine. He's been average. But lots of without a clubs when you leave here.
Yeah, and I don't know. But speaking of owners, I do feel like we need to talk about the other club, the other team that was newsworthy this week or last week was Deloy Hansen, RSL owner. Let's talk.
Direct action works.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this because this is what's crazy to me. If he never goes on that radio show, if he never speaks up,
yeah,
he is probably still the owner, and he objectively is not a good person because of the comments he made. He can tout how much money he gives to organizations. You make comments like you do in number one on the radio that were bad, saying you're not sure how much you want to own the team. You also make the comments in private about wanting to lynch players and dropping the N-word. I'm sorry, that is you're a bad person, and you should fade away quietly. And I think it was Brian Strauss wrote a great article today, sort of exemplifying, there are still owners out there that aren't good. You look at most owners probably are not really good people or for, because I mean they're rich people, and these are very working class type of movements that we're seeing, and that's the nature of what happens.
There's no woke owners in pro sports.
Yeah,
if they are. They're messing.
Yeah, and you have like Phil Anschutz, who has given money to a lot of causes that are that many describe as homophobic, and I certainly describe them that way too. And there's a lot of those owners, but those owners are Phil Anschutz is quiet. If you showed me a picture of a bunch of old white men and asked me to pick out which one was Phil Anschutz, I probably couldn't pick him out. Like, he's very quiet, like in the background. And it's sort of saying, if you try to come out and try to butt against the sort of progressive fan, you are going to be hit back, and you're going to, lose everything basically. And this is what happened to Deloy Hansen. He lost everything.
Well, he didn't lose anything. He's going to sell all these assets.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, he still lost. I mean, I would still argue like he certainly was one of the more vocal owners out there. I mean, I'm sure he certainly still cared about the team. I'm sure he's going to make I'm sure he's going to make money off this.
Yes.
For whatever his investment was, I'm sure he's going to make money. So
it's like Donald Sterling. It's like Donald Sterling was forced to sell the team and made more money than he could have imagined.
But I mean, you talk about public embarrassment. You talk about he is reserved out in the corner. He's going to have his money, and you probably will never hear from him again.
Sure, you will. There are so many people that agree with him. There is an avenue.
Not with the comments that came out in The Athletic. I'm sorry, and it's not with the comments that came out in The Athletic.
He'll just say he's growing and changing, and he's heard you, but he wants to change.
But he's not going to be somebody who's going to be out there in public. I mean, I do think that there is some sort of public image that he has suffered because of this, and I think that's worthy. That's worthy of discussing, and I think that is something that I don't think he'll ever get back. And I think there were people also apparently, like, I think because RSL is a very small club, it just wasn't really well known. But there are a lot of people that talked about, like, there were well documented people not liking the new owner of the club and sort of his actions. I think this is maybe the first time people heard his name, like on a wide scale.
I think they heard it first when he paid $1.5 million for a coin, like a dime. I think that's the first time people heard about the things that he. I mean, I don't know. I'm very jaded about this. I feel like that he will spin this off into an opportunity to be some sort of a commentator somewhere, and say how he was canceled by the soccer Gestapo or something, and all that he will have lost for it is teams that he was invested in it. Obviously, he
Yeah.
was the reason that the NWSL tournament happened this year. Without him, it wouldn't have happened. And that's sort of what the NWSL statement alluded to. Like, yes, he really did a lot. He actually did a lot for this league in the short time that he was owner. But as a quick aside, there's no guarantee that the Utah Royals stay in Utah after this. There are lots of owners across the country that are looking for franchises, and the Utah Royals were, I believe, the Boston Breakers before they were the Utah Royals. So you never know there. Also, all their players are trying to leave. All of their national team players are.
Yeah.
As soon as the LA team goes, they're gone. And Kelly O'Hara is hanging out in DC like, I'm not playing anymore until you trade me. So
figure out a way to make
what
that.
you
I was
want.
actually looking. I was trying to see what they were. I thought they were the team in I think
the Kansas City team,
the Rochester. I thought they were Rochester. Maybe I could be wrong.
I think Rochester hasn't.
Oh no, FC Kansas City. They were FC Kansas City.
There you go.
At one point.
Second.
So.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I am glad that the result came quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like justice really. I don't know about justice is probably pretty strong. The stuff that he was accused of in the Athletic article is much more of an indictment probably than the things he said on the radio show. The radio show stuff is just like, all right, you're an asshole. Like, yeah. All right, cool. You're not supporting your team, you're making it all about you, and you're sort of misrepresenting both what they're about and also blaming players for having to fire the staff and the game day staff. Like, yeah, that was
the most disgusting comment I thought he made was when he was saying, like, I think there was a player coming out saying like how much he did not want to be here anymore because of because of what the owner was saying, and the owner was like, well, he should think about the people who get paid $12 an hour, and if you really, and I'm like, oh my god, you are get out. And those, I agree, those, he probably, those comments don't come out, he probably still has his teams, because then they're just really bad comments, but they're not at the level of what we're seeing. And once the stories came out, once they were corroborated stories, they were not just one person who got furloughed saying them, which is what a lot of people were trying to paint it as. Andy Williams just got furloughed. And no, there was someone else there who had no reason game, was like, oh yeah, he said those things. He absolutely said those things. You have all those things sort of coinciding with this. And, I think MLS had no choice. You are a league that leans more towards the left. There are still people who are very conservative who are soccer fans. I know some of them. I've hung out with some of them, but it is very predominantly very, very towards the left and towards the progressive side. And when you have comments like that, and the thing is, I think MLS has a little bit of an easier job in sort of removing owners like that because of their structure. It's basically akin to a Pizza Hut having a bunch of like health code violations and something like a really, really bad rumor, and Pizza Hut corporate steps in and says, I'm sorry, you have two choices. You can sell this to someone else, or we're taking away your ownership. Like, and those are your two choices. So figure out which one you want to do. And, we can handle this nicely, or we can handle this forcefully.
You want it the rough way or the easy way?
and that's I think what the ownership, that's the reason why, an awful owner like Dan Snyder, because the owners have more control. I think as a collective, there's more of a collective ownership amongst MLS, and the way the structure is, that makes it easier. If you have a bad owner, you can, you have an owner that's really bad, you can get rid of him. They did the same thing with Chivas USA. They basically told him, look, you're not doing well. This is an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment. We have people lined out the door would love to buy a franchise in LA. Sell this team. We'll give you a hefty profit. Be on your way. And we can do it easy, or we can do this hard. And I think that's that's basically what happened with this. Now, it was a good decision because LAFC is so much better than Chivas USA. That's going to be one of those like weird things we're going to watch games and be like, oh yeah, remember that whole experiment? So, yeah, I don't know, man. 2020, weird year.
I'm trying to think. NWSL, I already said, comes back. The Rose Lavelle less Washington Spirit are in training now. I don't know if
future legend Ashley Sanchez. I'm sorry, I am looking to the future with that team. I need something positive.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like her to score a goal. I think I as soon as she scores one goal, I'll be on the train. She's certainly
well,
she's put herself in the dangerous spots.
You were all on Roosevelt's like bandwagon, and she has contributed like 3 goals in this team out of like 23.
She wasn't a winger. She was a playmaker, and she made plays. So I'm fine with that.
She didn't have that many assists either. I'm sorry. I'm all on the Ashley Sanchez board right now. Like, I think I am enjoying watching her play, and it's going to be. I'm hopeful that U.S. Soccer doesn't put minute restrictions on her. That's all I ask for.
I don't know if you watched the Man City Chelsea Community Shield game on Saturday. Sam Ewis played, was horrible, and Chelsea Sam Kerr had about 37 chances and missed all 37 of them. It was kind of crazy. It looked like she had some sort of curse on her. It was horrible. And if not for Millie Bright's like 35-yard howitzer goal, it would have gone to penalties. It was pretty dire otherwise. And then there was a goal in the 89th minute. But I'm all in for the WP not the WPS. That's not the name of the league.
It's like FAWSL or something like that.
Yep, I'm all in for it. The Chelsea's everyone is sort of like loading in as far as players from around the world. They're really deciding to commit from a financial perspective. So it's a league to watch, and it's free. Everyone can watch. I think it's called the FA Player on your phone, and you can watch all the games. So I recommend doing that.
You can watch the German Women's League for free too on the if you have to navigate through some German, but you can watch those for free as well. Also,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and and kudos by the way to CBS for broadcasting the Women's Champions League.
Yes,
really cool to see. These are the types of things that I think we've seen sort of. I think the NWSL has done a lot as far as when they played during that summer when no one else was playing. They have fully taken advantage of their moment to sort of advertise themselves, and they have elevated other leagues, which is always a good thing, and they've elevated the sport. I think the biggest problem the NWSL always faced was that it was always really good post World Cup. Post World Cup years, there was all this groundswell, and then it just faded the next season. This is the first time I think they saw this window and said, we can be the first one back. We don't have as many teams. We can get everybody there. We can play this tournament. We can do it well. We can showcase ourselves. We're going to have a national spot. And I think they've done incredibly well at getting that. And I think it's elevated everything. I think, it won't surprise me if the FA Women's Super League is suddenly in on NBC Sports.
ESPN Plus seems like a great home for it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
The fact that they have the Community Shield is new. So I think that's maybe they want to see what the metrics are like for viewership. I think it has never been a better time to be a fan of international soccer than now.
Yeah.
As far as
soccer in general, everybody complains, and I'm like, do you guys does anyone remember what it was like 10 years ago?
Do you know how much Fox Soccer Plus was per month? It was how much $35. It was $35 a month, and I paid it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even in HD when I paid it. So you don't know, kids today. It is way better. Count yourself lucky to have all the options. You have more games than you can conceivably watch.
Yeah.
For $6 a month. There's no way you can watch all those games.
You now have in a situation where literally there is probably not a day where there isn't at least some soccer on you could watch. Like now the Bundesliga is coming to ESPN Plus. I am super pumped for that. I'm hopeful there's going to be some two Bundesliga because I have a team I follow there, who fortunately did not get promoted. But there is so much soccer you can watch right now. The Scottish Premiership. We're going to get to watch Ian Harkes play for Dundee United in the Scottish Premier League. So
it's really just the Spanish league and the French league that it's just funny. Those are the two that you can't get unless you have beIN Sport, and most people don't have or can't have beIN Sport. So somehow ESPN make a play. Get them over to the ESPN Plus. I'll throw another $1 in. I'll pay $6 a month, $6.50.
Even if it was $10, I think it'd still be a good deal. Like with the amount of content you get. So.
Well, don't give them any ideas because it will be.
Yeah.
It's going to be a slow dollar march per year, but as long as they keep adding content, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yep.
This week has been dumb. Like all these games were bad, and it's okay. I think we have to start getting our minds in the place where these games might be bad. We might just keep losing these games, and it's okay This podcast is the place we're going to try to work through them. I wish someone would have called today. That was sort of the whole point.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep driving that so we can so that we can really. This is what the show is going to be. Working our collective rage and our collective disappointment out together, because no change is coming. Their new players will not save the day. Ben Olsen is not going to get fired. Everything as is now will be by the end of the season. It'll just be longer, and we'll have to go through it. But this podcast is going to be the place where we sort of figure out, we explore why we care, because we obviously do. If you're listening to this podcast now, a team below FC Cincinnati, if you are watching us on the live stream or downloading our podcast and listening to us now tomorrow, there's a reason you do this, and we're going to figure out why that is.
And I do want to say, I hope the team listening, the team, we are part of the supporter content creator network. We are probably a little more closely aligned to the team than we've ever been as a podcast. I hope that people listening on the team know that the reason we are upset is because we care, and I care about this team. I've cared about this team for so long. It is ingrained in me from it being a kid and watching games, and the amount of joy I saw out of and I was too young maybe for the late 90s, but I remember 04 to 07 very vividly, and that made me become like, this is my number one team. This is the only team I'm going to follow from now on. Like this is going to be, if I have a choice between, one team or another, I'm picking DC. So we care, and that's why I want this team to matter again is the problem, and I want this team to matter, and it hasn't mattered for a long time. So
we missed most of that. I think we will find in the final accounting that most of that did not come through. Oh, no. But suffice to say, Ted wants the team to be better, and they are not. And he doesn't. And we're not mad at the team.
I'm pretty sure it came through, maybe, but not for you all. Probably everybody else heard it because of how my setup is. But anyway.
Ew.
Anyway, all right, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. Patreon.com/RFQRefugees. Donate to the show. Twitter.com/RFQRefugees. If you want to comment, send us questions. You guys are all legends. It's okay. That y'all didn't call in. It's okay. It's fine. I think we're all kind of down.
Ted's the good cop. I'm the bad cop. Call the dang number. It's free. Call it.
Give us your thoughts. All right. We'll catch you all next week.
Vamos.